Good afternoon, and welcome to today's Sunday Sound Special virtual concert at the Hingham Public Library. My name is George Ward, and I'm a member of the Boston Classical Guitar Society and the curator for this series. Today's performance is brought to you by the Hingham Public Library and the BCGS with additional support from the Coastal Heritage Bank. Today's performance features Michael Bester and Amanda Roeder, guitar and flute duo. Amanda Roeder is a multi-instrumentalist, music educator, and performer. Since 2014, she has directed choral ensembles and an award-winning a cappella program at Chelmsford High School. Amanda is an experienced musical theater director and orchestra musician for local scholastic and community productions. She holds degrees in music education from the University of Massachusetts and Groton College. Michael Bester is an acoustic and electric guitarist, bassist, arranger, producer, and composer. He is an exceptional musician in several musical styles, from the classical to jazz to rock, pop, and beyond. In recent years, he has performed in the Bester-Papineau guitar duo, as well as in orchestras in the greater Boston area. Michael also serves on the board of directors for the Boston Classical Guitar Society and is presently the BCGS webmaster. Michael holds a degree in music performance from the University of Miami. During today's performance, the audience will be muted, so please wait until the performance is over, when everybody will be unmuted for applause. At this time, please welcome Michael Bester and Amanda Roeder.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, George.
Thank you.
So we've got a fun program for you today. It's music from mostly the Americas. I consider it to be the Americas. I mean, the first piece we're going to play is a piece by Mario Castelnuovo-Tedesco. It's his Sonatina number 205 for flute and guitar. Now, Tedesco, he wrote a lot of music for a lot of different orchestrations, a lot of different instrumentations. He was originally from Italy. He moved when he was young to California and got into the Hollywood system in the 30s or 40s, and wrote some music for film. But he was mostly known for his concert work. He's mostly known for his, and in the guitar world certainly. I mean, he did a lot of compositions with Segovia in mind. For the Presti LaGoya duo, he did a series of pieces which was called the Well-Tempered Guitar, which takes does a guitar duo piece in each key, major and minor. So there's 24 of them. This piece that we're going to play for you today is again a sonatina, so it's a 3-movement piece. It was written in the 60s for a guitar and flute duo in Switzerland. It was originally performed there. But the duo who commissioned him to write it and performed it, they never met with him during the composition process, if I recall correctly. It wasn't until later that they got to meet Tedesco and sing the praises of this piece. But this piece is, Tedesco is great at introducing a theme, introducing an idea, and really kind of working through all the different variations. So in each movement that we play, again, there's 3 movements for this piece. So in each movement we play, there's going to be a couple of different ideas that are introduced, and you'll hear all the variations that he puts it through, modulations, different phrases, and whatnot. So it's really kind of a really well done piece in that regard, and it's just a fun one to play. So that's what we'll start with today. So that was Sonatina by Tedesco. Maria Tedesco. I hope you saw some of the thematic development that happened in that piece. Again, it's a really fun piece to play. And I meant to say earlier, thank you all so much for taking some time out of your day to spend an hour with us. it's great that you support the live music and, in any form that we can do it. So this next selection of pieces is from a series called Mountain Songs by Robert Beaser. It was composed about 35 years ago, for Elliott Fisk, and who you may know as kind of a titan of the classical guitar world. He's the head of classical guitar in the conservatory, has been for a long time, as well as a few other institutions, and he's recorded many albums and played with many different people in many different kind of musical worlds. So he was working with a flautist by the name of Paula Robeson, and Elliott was friends with the composer Robert Beaser when they were young, and Elliott and Paula wanted to have a kind of meaty work to be able to call their own, and also something that could become part of the flute and guitar repertoire. So they came upon the idea of taking kind of Appalachian folk songs and setting them in a new setting, in this kind of guitar flute setting. Folk songs, they have, they can be interpreted in a multitude of ways, of course, but and many people have sang these songs that we're going to play today and played them in many different settings. The approach that Beaser took here, he kind of kept the idea of the lyric of each folk song, even though there are no lyrics in this setting, but he kept kind of the thematic material intact in the musical ideas and the kind of the music presentation. And so we're going to do 4. There are 8 songs in this series. We're going to do 4 of them. The first one, they're all through composed, by the way. There's no kind of improvisatory elements. They're all kind of through composed, meaning everything that we're going to play is written down. I mean, there is, because they are kind of folk in their setting, there's a little bit of freedom that we may each take in terms of how we phrase things and whatnot, but everything's on the page. The first piece that we're going to play is Barbara Allen, which I think originated in Scotland in the 1600s. And it tells the story of a man who's on his deathbed who loved a woman named Barbara Allen, but he slighted her at some point, and she came to see him on his deathbed and basically shunned him, and he died. And after he died, do you remember the story exactly? She felt kind of remorse, and she soon after died, and they were kind of buried next to one another, even though their love was unrequited, but they were buried next to one another. And from his grave, there sprouted a rose bush, and from hers it sprouted thorns. Is that how it goes?
A briar.
A briar, that's right. And they kind of intertwine. Go ahead.
There's a bit of a thread of misogyny throughout all the lyrics to all of these movements.
Yeah. But anyway, the rose bush and the briar that kind of grow out of their graves, they get intertwined, and kind of that's their love that they never managed to kind of realize when they were alive. It represents it in their passing.
One of the neat and challenging things about this piece, Michael referenced the incorporation of folk elements, including techniques that are not typical for us classically trained musicians. So, for instance, the flute part features a lot of pitch bending, which is kind of a nod to the wooden ancestor to this instrument, and a bit harder to pull off on the modern version, but a lot of fun to play around with.
Barbara Allen. Okay, the next piece of the series that we're going to play is called The House Carpenter. It's also known by another name, Demon Lover, or James Harris is some other names that this song goes by. It tells the story of a woman who is visited by her past lover, by a lover from her past, who is thought to be the devil. And she has since married and had children. The house carpenter is this woman's husband. And she doesn't want to go with her old lover, the devil, at first, but he's very seductive, and he manages to convince her to come away with him. And they go sailing. They get on a boat, and they're sailing, and she is realizing the mistake that she made. She's not so much upset for her house carpenter husband, but definitely for not seeing her children anymore. And after a couple of weeks, the boat springs a leak, and they start to sink. And as they're sinking, she sees some white mountains in the distance, and she asks the devil, "What are those mountains over there?" And he says, "Those mountains are heaven, those you'll never see." And then he points to these other mountains in the distance, the dark mountains. And she says, "What are those?" And he says, "We're going there, that's hell." And they sink. So, the house carpenter. Thematically, throughout this piece, mostly, generally speaking, the guitar part, I think, represents the devil kind of perpetually driving, the forward motion to the end. And yeah, it's a fun piece to play. All right. For this one. The next one is called, that we'll play, is the third in the series. It's called He's Gone Away. You may know this song. It's thought to have originated in North Carolina during Civil War times in the 1860s. And, Amanda, would you like to tell a little bit about this song?
So this is sung by the point of view of a young woman whose lover is leaving, presumably going off to fight in the war. And she is lamenting the fact that she has to be alone. She is wondering how she will get by without him, wonders who will tie her shoes and who will glove her hand. But she has faith that he will return, and she spends her days watching the horizon, waiting for that day to come. Kind of a neat moment in the middle of this piece. You'll definitely hear her sorrow and her loneliness in the beginning, and then right around the middle, I think you'll really be able to imagine her watching the horizon and hearing the sounds of the birds and allowing herself to imagine that happy day when he will eventually return to her.
Yeah, that sense of hope. All right, the last one we'll play from this set is called Cindy. You may know the song, Johnny Cash has sung it and many other people have sung it. It's probably the happiest song in the set in terms of kind of the lyrical content. It's a fun song. Some of the lyrics read, "You ought to see my Cindy, she lives way down south, and she's so sweet the honeybees swarm all around her mouth. Get along home, Cindy, Cindy, get along home. One day I'm going to marry you." Or is this it here? Oh. No. Oh, there's the rest of the lyrics. "I'll marry you someday." She took me into her parlor, she cooled me with her fan, she said I was the prettiest thing in the shape of a mortal man. She kissed me and hugged me, and she called me sugar plum. She'd thrown her arms around me, and I thought my time had come. And if I was a sugar tree standing in the town, each time my Cindy passed, I'd shake some sugar down, and so on and so forth. It's lyrics of this nature. It's just a fun song to play. It's a bit of a hoedown. So. That is Robert Beaser's version of Cindy. It's kind of like chickens singing it. All right, we're going to leave the Appalachian region behind now and go to South America, specifically to Argentina. We're going to play some Astor Piazzolla for you. We're going to do the history of tango. This is a very popular piece for this instrumentation, for guitar and flute. It was also written in the mid-'80s. I forget who for exactly. Do you remember? No. Well, that doesn't matter. The first, there are 4 movements in this piece. We're going to play the first three for you. That'll conclude our set for today. And each movement kind of represents a different period in tango music. So the first movement is called Ordello 1900, and it kind of represents the kind of bawdy nature of the tango at the time. The description here in the score reads this way. The tango originated in Buenos Aires in 1882. It was first played on guitar and flute. Arrangements then came to include the piano and later the concertina. Concertina is the accordion-like instrument, isn't it? Yeah. The music is full of grace and liveliness. It paints a picture of good-natured chatter of French, Italian, and Spanish women who peopled in these bordellos as they teased the policemen, thieves, sailors, and riffraff who came to see them. This is a gay tango.
The tango as a social dance was born in the streets of these working class neighborhoods of Buenos Aires. So it's very humble in its origins. Sure. So as tango became increasingly popular in Buenos Aires, composers like Piazzolla expanded on the instrumentation and started to really play with the expressive capabilities of the music. One of the things that makes Argentine tango such an interesting form of dance is the emotional range that you hear expressed in the music. All of life's joys and sorrows coexist. And a truly skilled dancer knows how to recognize that and to interpret it through their dance. As the music became more complex, although it has always been a social dance, it also, tango music became something to be listened to appreciate it for its musical merits. And so this next movement is titled Café 1930, and this would be an example of a piece that perhaps would be more of a concert piece. I also think it's a beautiful representation of the sorrow that can be heard in tango music. 1930s, this was a time of great political upheaval in Argentina, and much like us, Argentina was going through a Great Depression at the time, and so I think you can really hear that somber quality to this movement.
right. Thanks again for spending some time with us this afternoon. We've got one more piece for you to play here. Again, from Piazzolla's History of Tango. This time it's called Nightclub 1960. And he explains it this way. It's a time of rapidly expanding international exchange, and the tango evolves kind of in tandem with the Brazilian bossa nova of the time. And the bossa nova and the new tango, they're moving to the same beat. So audiences rush to nightclubs to listen earnestly to the new tango. And it's a profound change in kind of the way tango is thought of in the past.
you.